Beautiful.
Yes, and here we are.
Thank
Jola
you.
Pypno-Crapanzano here, my friends, with Coaching Journey with Jola interview series. Today I call her a superwoman, and you'll know in a little bit why. Because it really takes a superwoman to achieve everything she did in such a short time. She's 21, 22, what is she? What?
I wish.
You guys will learn what's her secret to look so beautiful and young and healthy. So I have for you Parul Agrawal from Arizona, my dear friend. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Yola. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me in your series, and my apologies for the delay.
It's not a problem at all. I'm sure that, we're all home. We're not going anywhere. Not that like we're missing something out there. Everybody is put right now, I was blessed to have this opportunity to reach out to you guys. And actually, normally probably would be impossible to schedule these interviews day after day after day. And yet everybody was home, and I got kind of lucky that I was able to schedule so many interviews in one
Beautiful. Yes,
time. Yes,
exactly.
let me introduce to you a beautiful Parul. So Parul is an international best-selling author who helped me and 21 other people become best-selling author of this amazingness. One, as a family of 22 souls, we became international bestseller thanks to her. She have her own titles as an international best-selling author on Amazon. She also is an international best-selling launch expert. So for you, those souls who are planning to write something one day, that's your girl. Reach out to her and she'll help you out. But before we go there, she has so many other amazing accomplishments, guys. She carries actually two master's degree in engineering from Arizona State University. She comes from just a tiny little town in India and was able to actually plow through all these layers of life. And how she calls it, she engineered her way through her success. But what brought her to all of this was her own book that was actually on green juicing. So you see how many layers we have here? Let's dig in. Parul, welcome again. We're gonna start
Thank you.
unpacking this, but before we go there, please tell me how you're doing these days. How is everything in Arizona?
So far so good. We don't have a sort of a lockdown, but we do have stay at home, and people are really following it. And I think with Arizona, we are lucky because our weather is really nice. We normally have warm weather. So I think, that is also to our advantage. And for this time, I'm really hoping that we have those 100 degrees sooner than later.
Kill it, right? Let's kill that damn thing. Yeah, I want to, before I forget again, I would like to welcome everyone who watches us on Facebook. And we have a few people watching us right now. So welcome, guys. Please tell us where you're joining from. If you want watching this later on replay, put hashtag replay. And once you're listening to this, you may have questions. Drop them in the chat below. I'll be happy to answer you with Parul at the end. So Parul, tell me, you mentioned I didn't say one huge accomplishment about you. See, I'm also a little bit scattered all over the place today. So Parul is my only third guest who actually is an unbelievable TedX speaker. She had last year, right here, very close to me in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, her amazing speech that I listened actually twice to because it's very inspiring. And from that speech, I learned about her past, and that's why I want her to share it, because it will again show, I always try to show people who listen and watch the show how it doesn't matter the circumstances, where you come from, how you were born, what country, what were your circumstances when you were a child. It doesn't matter. You can just completely ignore the fact that perhaps you were not really blessed with certain things, and yet you can succeed beyond belief. So tell us, please, you're coming from a small town in India. How was it when you were growing up?
How was it while growing up? My town is essentially known for, as I mentioned in my talk also, essentially housing the very first and the oldest engineering college in the country. So very educated, very disciplined kind of a family I grew up in. And mainly we were only taught like how education is the key to success. And of course, living in a town where everybody was highly educated, that kind of came naturally.
Yes.
So education and culture and values were a big part of my upbringing, also because I grew up in a joint family with everybody living together, 18 to 20 members living together under the same roof. So that was again very protected, so to speak. My life was not like other teenage girls going out and hanging out with friends and going out for dinners or movie theaters with them. Again, it was a small town. There was not too many things to do except for going to libraries and going to bookstores. Essentially, we did had theaters and stuff, but because my family was very particular, we never went out with friends. Family, of course, you could go anywhere. So very cultured, very religious, very educated kind of a upbringing I had.
Yes. I remember you mentioned in your talk how you were living upstairs, and at any given time you always could reach out to grandma, to mom, to cousins for advice, for help. There was never an issue. You were like living this life, no problem, whatever I need I can get at any given time.
Exactly.
And then what happens? Then obviously by default you decide to go and study. Guess what? Engineer, right? Engineering. That was kind of like almost self-understanding. And you end up in the unbelievable big, shiny, bright city of Bombay, right?
Yes.
And that
yes.
what happens. And it's like you look at the wall, right?
Right. I mean, again, going from the small town, staying highly protective life and reaching out to anybody for help. And my grandmother actually started, not only we had the very first engineering college in the country in my town, but my grandmother actually started the very first English medium school in that town.
Oh, how nice.
My grandmother was also very highly educated. My grandfather was a PhD in mathematics. And you could imagine like being PhD in 50s and 60s, and my grandmother had a degree in English languages at that point of time. So she, of course, there were schools, but they're mostly vernacular and regional language schools. And she started this school, which was English medium. So I mean, anybody to everybody I knew in my town, especially from my father's age group, they came to our school. I mean, they came to my grandmother's schools for education. So everybody knew us in the town. I mean, I say small town compared to lots of towns compared to New York. It's not a city, but it's not like small. It's kind of,
Right. So I misunderstood because I understood it was a tiny little town. It doesn't really matter. Bottom line, you end up in Bombay, and it's like a city of dreams for many girls your age, right? They all partying, they all going out crazy. And here is Parul studying, doing her thing, going crazy, trying to study everything and anything that's possible, but feeling very close, right? Like you said that, I love how you said it, that your dorm room was everything that wasn't anything that the city was, or vice versa.
And that is the truth, because of course I had only seen, I mean, I had been to Bombay before my engineering also, but it was all flashy. And when you go and visit a place, it's different, but you start living in a place, and that to start living in a dorm, because obviously you do not have a house there. It was very different. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not at all what I had envisioned and, looked in movies. And so the first few years were definitely difficult. I mean, it was sort of a big wake-up call for me. It was a big cultural shock for me. I had a bigger cultural shock when I moved from my town to Bombay, rather than moving from Bombay to the US, I mean, that was a different kind of a cultural shock when I moved to US, because I moved to Phoenix, and then I moved and I'm like, where are the high rises? Where are the malls? Phoenix is more of a flat, everything is, now it has grown. But when I moved here in 2004, maximum we had 3 or 4 levels. And I'm like, where are all those tall buildings that I used to see in movies? And so of course, it was So, and because of this cultural shock that I had in Bombay, and because I was not as outgoing, not apt for city life, essentially, it was very difficult for me to adjust, in the first few years of my life there.
Yeah. And also you were talking about how, dirty and moldy and all that stuff. So it wasn't really healthy. Like there was no water, no electricity. You were studying with basically candlelight. And I said to myself, this is what happens when someone really wants something, regardless of the issues of problems that appeared, you will go and plow through all this, right? You will go after what you want. And then yet you called it a failure. And I was just like, what is she talking about? She could not possibly fail. Please talk about that, because that was a fascinating moment, and I think that was one of the defining moments in your life.
Absolutely. And by failure, I mean like academic failure. Okay. So, of course, I mean, coming from such a background, during my school life, during my high school, I was always an A grader student, always acing, doing my AP classes, I mean, equivalent of AP classes at the right time. And here I come, and in my first year, of course, it was a cultural shock. I was not able to adjust to the new life. And I failed most of my subjects in my engineering program. And we had this rule, I think we still have it, like if you fail certain number of subjects, you're not allowed to graduate and move into another year. Yeah. So I could not move to my second year, or so after freshman, what do we have, sophomore, freshmen, so and so forth. So I could not move to my second year till I finish and complete all my courses of the first year. Yeah. It's different here, and it's just a different education system here. And so one time I remember my grandparents visited me. Of course, they were living in the small town, and they visited Bombay because my cousin was also living there, and they visited her. They visited my dorm, and all of a sudden the power went off, and it was really dark. It was really rainy also. It looked like a ghost town, essentially. And then at that point of time, my grandparents were so upset. They were like, hey, how can you even survive in such an environment? You're not staying here even for a minute. Just pack everything and come back with us. Yeah. But and even after this failure, and even after my grandparents had said, I had this conviction that I got admission into this engineering college with great difficulty. I have a way to make my life and dreams come true, and come what may, I'm not going back. So, I just wanted to, and it was not, I mean, of course, can I go back and live in those situations now? Not necessarily. But at that point, it didn't matter.
That sense. It was destiny written for you at that point. You were already following some sort of, pre-written story. But the bottom line is you succeeded. And then something else happened that for me is fascinating. And I have friends from your country, original country of birth. And I know I can comprehend the prearranged marriage and all of that. And you moved to United States. That had to be another tremendous story that obviously had such an impact on your life, right? I mean, it's natural in where you come from, but it's not natural for me. So I'm always so curious to learn about it. How does girl live through something like that,
I think it's all about the mindset also. Yes. Because, of course, we have been born and brought up with that mindset, seen, most of our cousins and my aunts and uncles who got married before us, going through the process. So it was not very difficult, Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you know this person for ages or whether you do not, I believe that marriage is a gamble, So
that's so true though, right? Because,
right.
Even people dating for 10, 15 years, they end up marrying each other, and that's like, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
So that's very true. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And as they say, whether you get married or whether you do not get married, it's one and the same thing, because you are either we have a very good analogy. It's said that marriage is like a cake, you know. If you yeah, but if you eat it, you will feel guilty. If you do not eat it, you will also feel guilty, right? So yeah.
Got it. Okay, good. Okay, got it. So now we are here in Phoenix and you are discovering there's no high rises, but guess what? You find out that you can continue with your studies. So here you go for University of Arizona, and you go for two more, for two master's degree in engineering, and everything is beautiful until you learn about the sickness of your dad, right?
Not necessarily. So I went into my first master's degree, and then I enrolled into the PhD program. So, but for some reason, what happened, like the group I was in, they moved to a different university. So my PhD project moved to a different university, and I couldn't move to that university because, of course, you know, I was married, my family was here. So I decided, rather than dropping out of the PhD program after being into it for 2 years, I then dropped down to a second master's program.
Got it.
So that is always there with me, that I was not able to finish my PhD, and hope, someday I'll go back to university and pursue a PhD in some field. That's always my desire and dream. But at the same time, you know, I'm glad that I was able to not waste those 2 years of education and still get a master's degree.
Yeah,
that's how I ended up doing 2 master's degrees.
Yeah, I tell you, I always with my guests try to identify elements that I have in common with them, and I was looking for that common ground with you, besides book one, obviously. And so I realized, you know, how funny. I have my master's degree in scientific technical information, including computer science, back from Poland. And I was also offered a PhD program right after. But because I came from Poland at that time, where the system was still very wacky, you know, it was so hard to, you know, they offered me to go study abroad program somewhere in Russia, in Moscow, whatever. And the money was so poor, little, so from my like monthly salary, I wasn't able to buy winter boots basically. And I said, no, I don't want to live like this. I had these dreams. I want to travel. I want to have all this amazing life. So it didn't fly with me. But you see how similar, like I also had that opportunity to go for PhD, never happened. And also I had this very a scientific-based kind of college degree, and with the years, I learned how much more feminine, that energetic approach, that, you know, learn about how we can just learn about human, not just body, but human mind. You know, so many things got influence over my education per se. Yeah,
exactly.
So what I want to bring this now closer to you, traveling to India to help. When your dad got sick, right? So because this moment was that trigger moment when you started to discover that you need to learn about health, alternate way, how to heal people, right? Medicine and so on.
So actually, I was already in, because of my master's and also working at the same time, I kind of, you know, gained a lot of weight, also living the American lifestyle and the American.
Yes.
So I kind of, you know, joined this diploma program because I was already in university and I had this mindset of being a student. And I joined this diploma program to become a personal trainer and a holistic health coach. But I was not planning to work as a holistic health coach. I was still planning to follow my engineering degree. And, you know, holistic health coach could be a side hustle or just for my knowledge, essentially. Because I always was interested in holistic sciences. But, you know, in India, I ended up becoming an engineer. So I followed that path, right? So, while I was in this program, that was the time that my father had a massive heart attack, and I went back to India to obviously be with him and help him out. And at that point, and also because I was doing a couple of things at the same time. So I was finishing my second master's degrees. I was also in holistic college, pursuing my holistic nutrition, and at the same time, I was also working in the corporate as an intern. And so 2 or 3 things happened at the same time. My father, I was overweight, and I realized, you know, how different I feel and look once I really started investing in my health. I could feel that, my father, I could help him because of all the knowledge I had gained. And also, thirdly, I would see these women. I was probably in my 20s, late 20s at that point of time. And I would see these women and I would think, is that a life, kind of life I envision for me 20 years from now? And, worrying about kids, at the same time worrying about answering their bosses. And because I come from, my father has a business, everybody in my family, as I mentioned, my grandmother had the school.
Yeah.
So everybody from my family has been an entrepreneur. So I never envisioned myself into like a 9 to 5 kind of a job. And so many things happened at the same time. And everything together was sort of a trigger, which made me realize that I had to do something, not only for myself, my family, but for the community in general.
Yeah, yeah. But again, I am fascinated by the story. And the point here is, oh, I wanted to learn how to eat healthier, so I just rolled into a program, the degree. And then later on, I show you another thing. Oh, she wanted to know something else. Oh, so she just decided to engineer her way and study like crazy how to do this thing to the best. This is your life. But this is fascinating because that shows you that no matter where you are, you can always pivot. And this is such an important time right now.
Exactly.
Where so many people lost their jobs, like me, 1 month already without my primary source of income. And didn't I have this, I would be really in a lot of trouble, right? Not that I'm not right now, because it's not like roses and unicorns and rainbows, but
Right.
it's better that I have, and I'm growing this passion of mine that was just,
Right.
say, a part-time. And so interestingly enough, you can just be a proof that no matter where you are, and now it's the time to pivot. Now it's the time to invest and skill up. And it's like a fascinating time. The universe delivered that free time to so many people.
Exactly.
Doing good with it instead of sitting and watching Netflix and going to competitive media and putting stuff in the head that doesn't serve you. Go and do something good for yourself. You'll be so happy you did. Back to Parul. So you go with these studies, you eventually end coming back here, and then you decide to implement all this knowledge, right? You go into basically practicing green juicing, and that was right. That's the way it went.
So actually what happened was I started offering these wellness workshops specifically for kids and adults, one-on-one coaching and health coaching for my Asian community, like the Indian community,
Yes.
because would cater the diet plan according to the foods that we eat. But juicing was something that was really close to my heart and still is. So after my son was born, I started juicing, and that was primarily to lose weight, the healthy way.
Yeah,
I was not sick.
Because guys, you gotta hear it. This is funny. That cracked me up. She says, well, my diet before consisted of a pizza and pasta. So this was, I was living my American dream. I thought this was hysterical. This was so funny. But obviously, when you have that type of diet, then you kind of grow that way, right?
Exactly. Yes. So essentially, after my son was born, I thought, okay, now I have to, because I'm nursing and inculcating good habits in him. So that's how I decided to actually, go juicing. And I started blogging about it. And every day I went on a 21 juice day detox and I started blogging about it. And the blog somehow became popular. I don't even know. I had no idea how to run a blog or, do SEO and Facebook and all that at that point of time. I was just, sharing honestly my experiences. And I think, when you're authentic, it resonates with people, and that's what resonated. And then I started getting calls from recreation centers all across the country, not the country, like in my town, Phoenix, asking me to offer juicing workshops to their patrons. Yeah. So I got calls from city of Chandler, city of Tempe, city of Scottsdale, which are the cities in Phoenix Valley, and that's how I actually got into juicing. I'm like, okay, I have the certification, and again, because I come from such a student mindset, I had a holistic nutrition certification, and health coach and stuff like that, but because they asked me to offer juicing for families, so I became certified as a medicinal juicing instructor, and I also became certified as a family health coach.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to, if I'm offering something, I wanted to know the intrinsic details of everything, right? So I followed those 2 degrees also, I mean diplomas, and then I started offering these juicing workshops all across the valley.
Yeah, and then you helped some people, you put a book together, and you realize that, wait a minute, so I have something really useful. I put my knowledge, it's sought after, people get results. And did I just write it for a couple of people? No, let me put this out there for like masses. And this is the second time that I was like really rolling on the floor laughing how, okay, maybe I should ask Parul to engineer me to the next level, because obviously she got a problem. She engineered herself to that problem. So what she does, she goes and she studies how can she make that book that she just published go crazy, viral, call it bestseller, whatever. And she makes it happen. She really makes it happen. She becomes, her book, Green Juicing for Healthy Families, become an international bestseller on Amazon. And this is how the role goes, right? You are the author. Your person who wrote you the forward or whatever, the first article for your book, was even more famous than you at that point, and she asked you for advice how to,
Yes.
how did you do that? So again, naturally you helped someone do that. And guys, from that point on, how many years ago was that?
I wrote my book in 2015, so
5 years ago.
almost 2016. So because 2015 I wrote the book, but that was almost October it was released, so it was 2015 to 2016.
Yeah. So fascinating story.
Years.
In about 4 years, she helped almost 300 authors all over the world become international best-selling authors. I'm one of them. Yeah, I wrote only a chapter, and yet I can call myself an international best-selling author. How phenomenal. As a matter of fact, I just, before we started the show, I asked Parul if she'll be my girl because I have ideas for 2 amazing books, and she already agreed to work with me. So hello. Well, anyway, what I want to talk about is that it is so fascinating to me that if you really put your mind into something, and this is basically your life, you put your mind into, started college, it wasn't going really well, you really made decision, you went, you completed it. Then you decide to go on with this, okay, I'm going to learn about this wellness because first of all, I got to get healthy. I want to help my father. You do that. And then I want to learn how to freaking go make these books going bestseller. You learn and you make it happen. And so this is what it is. Guys, don't waste your life. I mean, there are so many opportunities. You can pivot. Maybe you lost job in something. Maybe you can now go online and teach stuff that you learned in the past that you didn't even know it will be useful. You can do so many amazing things. I mean, this is so inspirational. Thank you for sharing. Really, really, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I also want to talk about this because this was a fascinating topic for me. I've never done juicing, to be honest with you. I've done once a detox. There was a crazy detox. Maybe you've heard about it. It was maple syrup, lemon juice, and cayenne pepper.
The master cleanse.
And then that was the most rigorous thing I have ever done. I completed it. I had tremendous success with like weight loss. Obviously, it was mostly water weight, whatever. So at the beginning and at the end of that cleanse, there was day of juicing before and after. But to be honest with you, it was so unnatural for me that I was actually hurting. My body was hurting and all that stuff. So I don't know if I would ever go through it again. But I know that juicing per se is a totally different ballgame because you're nourishing your body in such a way that it constantly gets these nutrients and it makes the enzymes that it produces like basically heal your body in a way, right?
True. Yeah, the master cleanse is kind of intense because you're just drinking water essentially all day long. Juicing, you're also providing your body with the exact nutrients as you mentioned. And with any cleanse, if you're especially doing the cleanse, the first 3 days are kind of more difficult because it takes your body 3 days to change from acidic to alkaline. Yeah. And that's why you might listen from people that, hey, those first 3 days were really bad. I had nausea, headache, and all these symptoms. I was not feeling good, my body was aching. And that's essentially a way for your body to detox.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so, but what I love about this chapter in the book, how you explained, and that fascinated me. I never actually understood, and I would like you to maybe go a little bit about this. Like you said that the juice itself that you drink, the green juice, it has a vibration to it, so it helps your body react differently. You feel like you're enlightened, you are more intentional, you can listen to your inner voice, you become more happy, more vibrant, like all these things happen. You start noticing synchronicities and stuff. I'm like, are you for real? Like I got excited to try it someday, because those are old things that everybody would like to experience in life, right? So if juicing helps you with that, come on, why not? And there was another piece to it, and that really blew my mind. Because that juicing has its vibration, it actually vibrates to the environment. So you actually, by doing it, you're also helping environment. Are you really? That is phenomenal. That is so good.
It is, isn't it? And it's one of the simplest way to achieve your enlightenment, essentially,
Yeah.
correct? And what happens, it's very scientific. It's not like woo-woo kind of a thing. Because what happens if juicing also helps us clear the gut, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
having, and right now more and more research is coming out that it's all about your gut-brain health. So when your gut is clear, if it is not constipated, if it is not, it doesn't have all that junk lining up on the intestines, you have brain clarity. And when you have brain clarity, your pineal gland, which is essentially here, which is what they call the third eye,
Yeah.
it's more like a liquid. Okay. And the more junk food we eat, it becomes solid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of blocking, it's blocking our vision and stuff. But as we start cleansing, as we start drinking juices, as we start cleansing our intestines, this pineal gland starts changing to its liquid phase. And when it's liquid, it's more permeable, so we are able to get that vision and clarity of what we really need in our lives. And that's the reason why most of the spiritual gurus, most of the leaders, most of the people who have to take some major decisions go on a fast before actually taking that decision. I mean, look at it in any culture, these Christ and Buddha and some of even Steve Jobs, Prime Minister of India, these people always are detoxing and fasting, because
Yes.
they have to take those major decisions, and they
Yes.
cannot take those decisions if their third eye or pineal gland is solidified, because they're not really at that point listening to what really matters. They're just listening to outside noises.
Yeah. And on a flip side, if we indulge in like really big feasts of let's say fatty foods, which I mean, listen, we human, we do these things,
All
right?
of us do
if,
it,
if
yes.
we go and enjoy, don't you guys feel like a tremendous brain fog after that? Like you basically are tired, not the focus is not there, all that stuff is completely on the other side. So like, it is fascinating to me now. So basically we're giving people this solution. Listen, if you're about to face some important event in life when you have to not just look good for the sake of it, but simply you want to be super clear and like go after, and get stuck to important decisions and want to have focus and the clarity, maybe that's the way to go. Couple days of like juicing type of detox and give yourself that extra boost. Why not? If we can, that's why I love my job as a high performance coach, because in everything that we do in life, we can get to the next level, right? And I am fascinated by that. No matter what it is, there's always next level. You can be you can leader of the world and you still have a next level. So I'm fascinating, but by optimizing everything we do, from health to business, to relationships, to anything. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I love to talk to intelligent people who teach me and my audience how to do that. So thank you for that, Parul. You're amazing.
It is such an honor, truly. Thank you for allowing me to share my knowledge, because really I do not get a chance to do that.
Yeah, I have two more questions because I know it's your day with family and stuff like that. And thank you graciously for sharing your time. But I want you to tell us, so there is a lot of people, including myself, I have this like sort of a need of sharing a story. And in the TEDx talk, you basically shared your story. And I know there's a lot of people in my audience that would love to know, how do one become a TEDx speaker?
Okay, that's a great question. So TEDx has a website, TED.com, right? And then TED.com/events is where they list all the upcoming events, which means, all the TEDx talks that are happening in different cities and different
Mm-hmm.
localities and universities. And you look at let's say the TEDx events happening in your area or in areas that you could easily travel to for the next 6 months. So let's say I knew I could easily travel to New York, or rather I could not easily travel, but that was something that I wanted to travel to,
But I'm
right?
sorry for interrupting for a second. So I live in New Jersey, as most of you guys know, and I actually, when I first moved to the United States, my very first original home was in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. So I did not know, obviously, Parul at the time when she had that speech, but it's relatively close, like an hour, maybe 15 minutes from
Yes,
where I am.
exactly.
I could have so be there, and I had just
I know,
not
right?
know
It
you.
would have been beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say you figure out like 5 or 6 places that you think are conducting TEDx talks, and you could be a speaker potentially out there. And then on the TEDx events page, they will actually either list the website of that particular event, or they will list the name of the person who's organizing it. So in my case, what happened, so if let's say they list the website, so you go on the website or Google. So let's say it says TEDx New Jersey. Even if the website is not listed on the TEDx events page, because sometimes they're not updated that frequently, you can always Google. So you go to, okay, TEDx New Jersey, you put this, and then if a website might come up, and that website might have the theme of the talk and the application process. So that's like the easy way. But my life is always the structured and kind of a hard way, so to speak. So when I saw this TEDx Brooklyn Bay Ridge, there was no website listed. There was nothing coming up on Google. The only thing that was listed was the name of the curator on the TEDx page. So I searched for her name on Google, and I found her LinkedIn profile.
And you engineered your way simply through the TEDx speech.
Exactly. So what I did, I connected with her on LinkedIn. She was, I was lucky enough that she accepted my LinkedIn request. And then I asked her, I saw that you were also conducting this TEDx talk, but I don't see an application. Are you still accepting application, or have you closed the process? Because normally what TEDx does is they also train people. So 3 months ahead of time, they kind of, 3 to 4 months ahead of time, they kind of close the application process. So you have to be kind of constantly also be aware, when is the application deadline, when is the application appearing.
And they also pretty rigorous about the form of a speech, because like I said, you had third guest of mine who actually had the privilege of being a TEDx speaker. So I heard from the other girls that basically the way it is, you have like a certain amount of time that you have to fit your speech in, correct? It's like amount of minutes.
5 minutes to 18 minutes. 18 minutes is the maximum. But right now they are saying that, 12 to 15 minutes is kind of the new 18. So, but you do not go beyond 18 at all. They cut you off,
Yes.
So anyway, so I reached out to this lady and I asked her if the application was still on, and she said yes, but it's sort of an invite only. But if you're interested, I could send you the application. So then she sent me the application. I filled it, and we had to fill the application. And each TEDx event is kind of a different application process. So this one that I filled, there was a written application, there was a 90-second video that we had to submit. And if we go through that first stage, then we had to move to the next stage, which was an interview process, right?
Got it.
So each TEDx curator does it differently. This is how it does. But again, if you do a little bit of research and try to make those connections with the people directly, then things are easier.
But it's such a great thing for people if people have that need. I through my coaching program, through my different connections with my mentors, I know that they do different conferences on public speaking, on this, on that, and I know a lot of people are interested. That's why I asked that question, and it's so great that there is, if anybody has more specific question they can ask. Talking of questions, let's see what's cooking on our Facebook feed. If we have any questions, we answer. If not, we will go on. Hey guys, yeah, welcome everybody who's watching. It's awesome to have you. I gotta say, we don't have any questions, so we're going to basically wrap it up slowly. Parul, I want to say thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Jola. Thank you.
Telling everything about us. Maybe one last thing that I wanted to ask you is, if people were interested in, reaching out to you to help them with the publishing of their own book, would you please share your social media handles, your website, how they could, find you?
Absolutely. On social media, I'm by author Parul, author as an author writer, author Parul. And my website is parulagrawal.com. So my first name, last name.com.
Very nice. And guys, as you see, she is as sweet as it gets and so smart and brilliant. She basically, I can't even explain. We were watching this book that we wrote together with my friends from all over the world. Was a miracle in itself. Thank you to Miraf once again. Thank you to all authors for putting this thing together, to Heidi, who was our editor. I say that in every interview. We're very grateful for this. And then you were the finisher. You were the missing link that make this all happen. And by simply knowing what you do, knowing so well, because you engineered your way all the way through, you made it happen. And for us, within literally 24 hours, become an international bestseller throughout so many platforms in so many countries. We were like watching this like, whatever. It's just like amazing. So there you go, guys. It's not a joke. It's not attached artificially. It's an actual book with the sticker on it. All right. So Parul, thank you.
Thank you. And stay safe there. I'm worried about all my friends in New York, New Jersey area, but I'm sure, God protects us.
It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But my home is safe. I'm keeping it nice, holiday this weekend, Easter, we're trying to make it as normal as possible. Obviously, a lot of things won't happen. The first Easter that we are not going to spend it with the family. We'll be home. But, making these regular things, decorating home, baking cookies, playing with the rabbit that we have, trying to make it as normal as possible. True. Listen, stay safe and healthy. We'll be in touch. Lovely to meet you. I sometimes go on certifications or different conferences, and once in a while in Phoenix. When I'm there, I will reach out.
I would love to.
If you come to New York, promise me as well that you raise your hand if you're around.
Absolutely.
We meet up, okay?
We will definitely. And thank you so much, and happy Easter.
Thank you so much, baby. Have a great day, great evening, great weekend, whatever it is by your day. And talk to you soon. Ciao.
Bye.